Check, 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 check. Checkity check. All right. Looks like audio's looking good. Video's looking okay. Yeah, I think we're ready to rock. All right, hey everyone. Welcome back. Hope you've been having a restful weekend. Asia session is going, and so there's a lot of stuff going on right now. So let's do some prep and get straight into the charts, okay? So we're gonna take a look. Don't worry if you're just joining in. You're not gonna miss too much, but I wanna make sure we get through the basics so that we can get straight over to the charts. And I wanna make sure that we have everything set up so we can trade. So, let's see, sim, okay, good. So this week, we've got quite a bit here. Monday, red folders on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we've got new home sales on Wednesday as well. So lots of opportunities for volatility. This is going to be a really nice week for that. Watch for these particular times, as this is going to set up 10 a.m. silver bullets on Monday, potentially Tuesday and Wednesday as well. Thursday, Fed Powell speaking. Very difficult day to trade. Just watch that one. If you're not done before Powell speaks, just be careful. When Powell speaks, algos are in motion. Friday, of course, core PCE could be pretty big. So you're going to watch out for all those. I like 10 a.m. silver bullets this week, generally. I think those are going to be good targets to look for. So we'll see how this week pans out, but let's take a look at price action. So far, want to point out a couple of things. So this is our Asia price action, right? Actually, let me do one thing. I want to get rid of this indicator. It's too messy. Okay, so this is our weekly profile. We know that we're within the premium side of it. We know that there's weekly sell side imbalance that we're maybe reaching for, the sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. So we're going to be potentially targeting that this week, I feel. That's my main focus. So any movement higher right now, I expect to see us trade lower, and I'll be looking for evidence that we trade and displace lower because within this first hour of trading from 6 p.m. till 7 p.m., we have this initial balance, buy side liquidity and sell side liquidity established. So watching right now to see if there's indication of movement lower on the lower time frames, to see if we have a shot at maybe catching a short. So in the overall notes, I have started to post in the community chat a couple of things I'm watching right now. So you can kind of see how in the past few minutes, note at 7:41, we took initial buy side liquidity. So right now I'm looking to see if it rejects off of Friday's first presentation gap, or it may be the Friday new day opening gap, and then there's a rejection block on the 15-minute chart too that we'll point out. We have to watch out for the Wicks midpoint. So I gave a few levels that we're watching for evidence, and that could happen sooner or later. We don't know. We don't know yet. So we're gonna see if we can catch one of these initial movements lower before an expansion higher. Now, could it expand higher? Yes. We have dipped below new week opening gap and already balanced that price range out. So we're going to watch to see if it's kind of one of those weeks where we just keep on buying and buying and buying and buying. I think those relative equal lows are a little too suspect for us to not revisit. So I'm looking for a short in the first part of the week in order to frame an expansion higher this week. So we're going to see if we get that during Asia. If we don't, then maybe London or New York will provide us that opportunity. So we're going to keep that in mind, okay? Okay, so let's see what else we got here. Okay. Come on. Okay, cool. So you can kind of see how we've marked out this initial buy side liquidity that got taken. and then initial sell side liquidity that has not been taken yet. But notice these black lines are our new week opening gap. These purple lines are our first presentation gaps from the previous 2 days, so Thursday and Friday. So we're going to see they busted through both of those pretty quickly. And so far, we're seeing it hold at the previous Friday's new day opening gap. So what we see here, and I'll show you the 15-minute. What I was mentioning is that you have this rejection block on the 15-minute chart. We've got the consequent encroachment, which we did not reach. So I'm thinking if we can reach just below that once more and reject, I would love for that to take us to the entire range down here and to this 15-minute buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency. Now, that's what I'm going to be looking for today. We do note that we weren't able to go too much lower, so maybe we don't take that out, but I think that would be fair value for us to return to the top half of this fair value gap, or sorry, to this buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency, and then maybe if we're very bullish, we only go that far down and then continue higher into the weekly levels that we were targeting for this week. Notice this is relative equal highs right here. There's a sell side imbalance right here. This liquidity is the closest one that we're at right now. And this type of material worked. Look at where the bodies did not make a lower low. So my bias is still bullish. We took out sell stops here, and now we're kind of waiting to head higher. So that's where I'm aiming for right now. So look at where we're trading. We're trading to we've taken out all early shorts here. So I'm watching to see, do we take out this midpoint here? If we do, it's possible that we continue higher, but I am also looking to see if we have an instantaneous rejection at that point from that rejection block here. I like that it stopped right there, but I need to see confirmation before I can go short, because I could be off sides and we could just continue squeezing, right? So you need to see displacement lower before we can consider taking a short. So right now, that rejection block being taken out is good. We'd like to see that kind of a move, but again, we don't want to take a short prematurely. We need to see what I would like to see is I would like to see this whole wick balanced all the way down. But we really don't have too much to go on right now. No real bias at the moment. We're watching price to see what happens. We have the initial hour's time. Actually, we have the initial 2 hours worth of time now. So we need to see what happens from 8 to 9. Does it continue higher? Does it want to take out these relative equal highs up here? Does it want to take that out quickly and maybe take out that short-term high buy side liquidity as well? So let's look at the 4 hour. So let's look at the daily chart actually. So on the daily chart, we looked at the weekly chart already. On the daily chart, you see it's really similar to the weekly, where you've got relative equal highs up here waiting to get taken. Maybe it takes those out first and then rejects here to take us lower to take these out, potentially. That could be a play. That would be surprising, but not impossible, right? So currently we need to see it's hanging around. It's definitely doing a little bit of hanging around the micro NASDAQ's new day opening gap. It's already well above the NASDAQ's new day opening gap. But yeah, so right now we're going to wait and watch. Wait and watch and see. Let me see something here. NASDAQ. Oh, I see. I was not on the right contract. I need to be on NQZ. Okay, there we go. So, okay. Yeah, I just had to use it. I have TradingView up on a different screen, so I wanted to make sure I could see those. Okay, so let's see what we have here. 15-minute. So far, we're not seeing any sort of evidence of short. So we need to wait for displacement before we consider going short, right? So far, no evidence of that. So we're going to keep watching until we do see evidence. I got to sign into my broker as well. Then make sure I didn't miss anything here. Robert Mathers. Hey, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Uh, things are going well over here. I think last week I had a week where 70% of my longs were profitable, 66% of my shorts were profitable. So, been using 1 to 6 micros, copy trading, and yeah, I'm able to find some great plays and stay within good risk management. So that's all I can really ask for, right? How about you? How you been, man? How's your trading going? How are you doing? You doing well? Let me know what you've been up to. All right, so we're seeing on the 1 minute time frame, we're starting to see some movement back to this new day opening gap. If we start to close below this new day opening gap, that's gonna that's going to indicate to me that we are closing this through this balanced price range, and I'm going to start to look for potential shorts. If we make it below this short-term low here, that's key. If I want to see a fair value gap go below all these, I want to see a fair value gap form around here, and then one more candle further down, and then I will enter a short position. So we need to see how this candle closes. Let me see how the 15-second looks. Let me see if I can maybe. Awesome. Sounds like you're killing it on AMP. Yeah, AMP is pretty solid. I like it a lot. I think this volume imbalance would be a good one to short. Let's try a short here. We're going in at the. Oh, we did not get filled there. Hold on. Come on. Give us a fill. There we go. What? It's skipping my order. Oh, there we go. Okay. So why did this not copy to the sim? Oh, I see. All right, so we will sell. We'll get in just because we entered an order at the volume imbalance. I just selected the wrong. I didn't switch it over to cross over to NASDAQ, so it's still a micro NASDAQ. All right, so I like this short setup. I think that there's promise here. We might only go so far as this presentation gap, so you need to be ready for this to bounce. This sell side imbalance could serve as an inversion imbalance as well, so we need to be careful here. We watch this really closely, but I like that imbalance on the 15-second. You can kind of see on the 1 minute time frame that this imbalance did form. So we did have some movement lower, Price is allowed to come back up here. Our stop is above the 50% mark of this wick and above the wick of this wick as well. So we'll see if this comes to fruition here, but I actually would like to. I think I would like to see if we can get a hold down into the initial sell side liquidity, but we'll see if this actually goes. If it's very bullish, then we might not get that chance. So we'll keep our stop where it is, and if we don't see further displacement lower, then it's going to keep on going up, probably. So we're going to see how does this react at the new day opening gap low. If we continue higher into the new day opening gap midpoint, and we continue closing within that area, at highest, I would like for it to travel up to this volume imbalance, maybe this volume imbalance here too. So we'll see. Stop's still going to be placed above here because if it's going to go that high, it's going to go that high, and that's okay. So we're trading, and notice that there is this liquidity up here, so it certainly could just continue boosting all the way up there, right? So we'll see what happens here. We'll be okay if this stops us out here. We're just seeing, does this have the willingness to continue lower, aiming for some of these imbalances which formed on the way up, and potentially, do we have room for it to head back down to these relative equal lows down here? If it doesn't, it's going to stop us out and continue going higher, right? To take out this short-term high buy-side liquidity up here. But I do like that we traveled up and we rejected below this area. So if I take a look at the 15-minute chart, I like that we rejected below this wick. But let's see how we treat this area here, because we do have this SIBI that we bounced off of right there. That could serve as inversion fair value gap. What we'd like to see is we'd like to see this turn into a failure swing, and we need to see a lot of sell side engaged, because this kind of price action, it doesn't make me feel comfortable with this potentially going lower. But we'll see. Robert Matthews, I'm trading less these days. Whenever ICT teaches new content, it tends to lose money because I'm eager to try these things out. I've learned just to stay away from trading too much when he teaches. Yeah, I like studying. You should definitely backtest whenever ICT is teaching something new. It's important to backtest that information first, right? Because what if it's just so new that your eyes haven't seen enough examples of it to do anything with, right? So I'm kind of thinking that that's a possibility that, you know, even if the new material, even if ICT knows that it's legitimate, we might not know that yet, right? So let's see if I can average this out. We don't want to see it move too much. We like to see this kind of a movement here. We don't want to see this traded above, if at all possible. We like seeing this kind of a move, especially this failure to get above the 15-minute wick consequent encroachment. So we'll see. $200.23. Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see those relative equal lows. That's within the new week opening gap as well. So we'll see if the short works. It doesn't usually, if a short is going to work, it's not going to do something like this. So it's possible that this is just consolidating for another leg up to take out short-term high up here. And if it does that, fine. We're going to get stopped out, and that's totally okay. This is a trade that we think we saw, and we're going to journal it, right? If it doesn't work out, we'll journal it and see why it didn't work out, and see what we can do about that in the future, right? So we'll see. We want to see some big displacement. Like, I like this high, short-term high, low, higher high, lower low. And then we had this kind of like, I guess technically this here could be a potential bearish breaker. Gosh. See if I can pull this up without shrinking everything. Yeah. The thing is it's not showing me very, very bearish movement, so I might kill the trade. Because we're not seeing displacement lower is the problem, right? So there's a very good chance that this thing's going to continue higher. We need to see we would prefer to see big displacement, right? And we're not seeing that. So generally, that means we should be able to get out of this trade and look for a better fair value gap, right? So it does kind of feel like this is going to continue creeping upwards, but as long as it doesn't keep on making any new highs, then we might be okay. So we'll hold on to the trade for now. We'll see what we can do. But yeah, I like that level, Robert. I like that level as a potential downside target if we can get displacement lower. And then also this initial sell side liquidity and relative equal low sell side liquidity, I just can't imagine why we wouldn't try to trade down here first, you know? Or maybe during London, I don't know, but I like this as if we can get continued movement lower, then I like this trade as a short, but we need to see displacement lower. The reasons why we can think about this as a valid trade, and you need to watch out for 20,056.50 is the buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency low. 20,043.75 would be a first possible area. 20,049 could be a mitigation block as well. So all those areas you're watching. First target, if you have multiples, has to be at this mitigation block, right? So remember, ICT says look for rejection blocks, look for order blocks, I guess mitigation blocks first, right? So that kind of movement there, we also need to be careful because that could be institutional order flow entry drill, right? So this could just barely spend a little time up here and it could just rocket upwards. So we're gonna let this go. I think we can move our stop down to probably around this short-term high now. It's above the 50% mark of the let me see if I can probably move this down a little bit further, but we're going to keep it here for the time being. Because if it's going to skyrocket upwards, then it's going to get us stopped out, right? So first, I'm hoping this isn't institutional order flow entry drill, but it's possible, right? You see on the 15 minutes, see how this fair value gap, or this buy side imbalance rather, is there? You have this bullish order block. So this level, you have to have this level on as a potential area to bounce. Okay? If we don't bounce from here, I mean, so first area of liquidity would be roughly here, if it's going to go lower at all. Second area of liquidity would be down here at the fair value gap high. So, and then of course, if you have more, you can hold for potentially further down back into the new week opening gap, and then potentially further down into initial sell side and relative equal low sell side. There's no guarantee we're going to head down towards that before we take out this sell side liquidity, though. Remember, there's quite a bit of liquidity above us as well, right? We still have a lot of liquidity above us. We still have like the weekly levels up here potentially. Those could be draws on liquidity. So we need to see how this 15-minute candle ends up closing, because if it spikes up, then our trade is done. It's kind of just holding in its area right now. So we want to see a little bit more movement lower. We like seeing that the price has stayed roughly within this bearish breaker here. That's a little bit too low. So we want to see, does price continue to see lower legs, or are we just going to completely blow all of this up and not respect this at all, right? So sell side imbalance, bearish order block, volume imbalance that's balanced already. So if it continues bouncing higher than this new day opening gap and it doesn't reject from here, then I would start to look for this area to just close out, because it's probably going to run higher at this point in time. Kind of see how this, if this continues, this is going to turn into an institutional order flow entry drill, so the shorts might not work. Can you not move your stop loss to 20,067? So right above this short-term high here. If it goes above it, it would become a bullish breaker. Yeah, possible. But yeah, I'd like to leave it at least above this this as long as it's like staying within that new day opening gap and rejecting from there, I'm still okay with the trade. If it goes much above that, then yeah, I would be curious to see what happens after then. Right now, that whole area is accumulating. Whether it's going to break upwards or continue rejecting lower, I don't know. But let's see how these candles are closing, right? So this could be the end of a market maker buy model, and it could just wick up above all the short-term highs and then just keep on going. There's some liquidity left. We've taken all of this liquidity, right? This liquidity took all that out, but this seems quite bullish, so it does look like we should probably cancel this trade here. I think we're going to get stopped out. So yeah, we probably should just close the trade now, honestly. So we'll close that one out, chalk it up to a loss. Because this does look like it's going to continue going higher. So what we're going to look for now is we clearly see this as an institutional order flow entry drill. So probably what it's going to look for is to take out this short-term high up here, right? Okay. And let me do one thing. I'm going to fix my trade copier so I actually trigger the sim with a cross here. Okay. So it should be targeting that short-term high now for potential scalpers could potentially go there. But now I want to see does it rise above this 15-minute wick? Because if not, we now have a high, low, higher high as well. But we would need to see displacement below this, and then this would be a bearish breaker. The reason why I'm looking at bearish breakers is primarily because we've taken buy side, buy side, buy side, and we've left some relative equal lows down here. Now, we've seen price relieve relative equal lows before, and maybe this turns into a breakaway gap and we just keep on trading higher. Remember, those rate increases probably have a very, very, very firm impact on how price can potentially book. So let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what happens here. So far, these candles are leaving some gaps up. So I do think it's going to end up taking this out here. This 20,084 level, which is only like 4 more points. So we should see it spike above there. And then I'd like to see, okay, well, maybe our short was too early there. I want to see what happens when we take that out, because we don't really have a lot of liquidity up here. We have a bearish order block potentially here. We've got a sell side imbalance over here. That could be reaching. But this does feel, this is an institutional order flow entry drill. So it does feel like it's going to continue heading higher. Robert Mathers, happy trading. Got a jet, but saw you streaming and just wanted to drop by and say hello. Appreciate you, Robert. Yeah, good seeing you, brother. Looking forward to hearing more about as you trade. Okay, so we've got that short-term high. Right there that we should end up peaking over. I was hoping for a little bit more accumulation, but man, this trend here seems to just only be breaking. It's only making new highs and not making new lows for the most part. So we'll wait a moment. I want to see how it reacts when it takes out that short-term high there. We can clearly see that this institutional order flow entry drill is very powerful. I mean, but we need to see, what does it do after? And does the candle body close below this wick here? That's what I'm really curious about. Because what I would like to see happen is I would like to see this leave this short-term high open for later. And I'd like to see us begin a trek down to come back through all of this and target the initial sell side liquidity. I want to see that, but we'll wait and see if we get displacement lower. If not, it's just going to keep on climbing higher and higher and higher. Yeah, this kind of movement has not made another short-term, lower short-term low yet. So we need to see that kind of commitment to go lower if we're going to consider shorting. Right now, longs are winning, and we haven't seen enough movement lower yet. So chances are it's going to continue going higher for the time being. So now we wait. See what else we got here. So potentially let's see. All right, so it took out that short-term high. Good. So now we're looking to see if there's evidence of any displacement lower or if it's just going to keep on creeping higher, right? So notice how while we did displace, we did trade lower than this, but it got stopped almost immediately there. So this is no longer considered a bearish breaker. In fact, I think this has a resemblance to the Reaper. But here we're watching to see, does this hold here? Or do we start to get like big black candles heading lower than that low? So buy side liquidity got taken out here and here. The 15-minute mark has about 48 seconds remaining. So if this continues, I mean, I don't see, I mean, maybe these relative equal highs could be a target at 20,136.50. 75, 21, 20136.75. Yeah, those highs could be our next target then. If we end up going above this short-term high, I'd look to see if we end up coming and returning back to the top of that. Oops. Wow, look at that movement. Okay. So obviously shorts are offsides here until we see otherwise, right? So that, you don't want to chase that. But the midpoint of these wicks could be a possibility, 121. The 120, 136 is definitely a possibility as well. So we're watching to see, that's on the 15-second. So this could be bullish order block there, or propulsion block rather. It left this open. So it took out this buy side, left this open for now. So it looks like we are actually getting a propulsion block even more. This is already on quite a bit of a premium though, so it's tough to consider taking a position here. But those equal highs, I think, look very, very enticing. We're going to enter a position and we're going to move our stop. It's going to be a big stop. It's going to be below here, and we're going to target those relative equal highs up there. So we think that it can come down to this here. And this is just a demo trade, so, you know, we just want to see how does it react, right? How does it react? Do we end up reaching for these equal highs here? Because that would be the target. Right up there. 136.75. Oops, what happened there? So possibly 122 could be a first profit, the midpoint of this wick. That might be a first profit point. And then the relative equal highs up there would be the next profit point. If we don't reject here and go down for more, right? So you have to be willing to, you know, take one micro or one position. And let's go draw these wicks out. Let's draw the midpoint out on this wick. That would be right here. You want to have that as a potential profit-taking line. So right there, 21 potentially could be a profit-taking target. make sure I draw this out on micro NASDAQ as well. Okay, let's see. Draw this out on micro NASDAQ. And okay, cool. So we want to see if price maybe reacts at this buy side imbalance here. We do see this buy side imbalance. I'd prefer to see this remain open right here. So I'd want to see this remain open, if at all possible. So that was a example of a bad entry, by the way. But we definitely do see that we have a tendency to continue pushing higher for the time being. So we think that a contract, and in fact, I'm going to add another one here. Once it goes down, maybe it takes one more here. It slowed down quite a bit here, but it definitely, I'm going to take, I'll wait to see if this gives us indication it's going to go. The easier take profit would be the midway point there. Do you think that 121 should be doable? So we could probably take profit and like make sure we have it right around that midpoint. Should be achievable. And then of course the relative equal highs looks very, very suspect up there. So we'll let this ride for a little while. Let me see what time it is. Okay. All right. So for those that have been watching, we're still gonna, I'm still gonna wait. See, I'm looking for price to get lower before it goes higher. It technically has already headed lower, so I'm waiting to see if this actually goes below. We will keep our stop at around, let's see, 0595, 85, below that fair value gap. Because we don't want to see it go below that fair value gap, basically. We want to see it continue traveling up. Let me go to the 1 minute on this. So it'll be interesting to see if we close the 15-minute below this area here, or if we just consolidate to continue higher to finish off this overall market maker buy model. Let's put some. This, of course, did not work, so that's fine. We can remove that now. Let's actually use this. And then so we see that over here. And then, of course, these relative equal highs, while I do think that those are likely to hit, you want to hit some of the base hits. So if you have multiple contracts, any new high, and wick consequent encroachments as well. So we'll see how this goes here. As you can see, this is super late entry. Waiting for discount would be possible. Volume imbalance down here potentially could get traded to. Actually, that was only a 15-second area. So this volume imbalance could definitely be traded to as well. And yeah, we're seeing slow down in upward motion. Gonna remove this for now. Get rid of some of my other charts. Okay, so far it's having a tough time getting back above this area. We haven't seen displacement lower yet, but that is quite a bit of a spike for the first part of the day. So what we should have done is notice that we went down. We went below new week opening gap, balanced that back up, traded once more, balanced it above, traded above it, breakaway gap, taken this second buy side imbalance and seen that, hey, it was likely continuing this trend of heading upwards in order to maintain a more bullish bias versus looking for price to immediately reject lower. So yeah, I mean, comes straight down into institutional order flow entry drill, takes out relative equal lows on the 1 minute time frame here. So these get taken out right here. Right there, sell side gets taken out. And institutional order flow entry drill occurs on the 15-minute chart, right around there. And then price continues. So price continues upwards. Propulsion block trades above it. Back down to that propulsion block, continues higher on the 1 minute time frame. So any new shorts are currently getting squeezed again. So everyone here still getting squeezed. And halfway through the wick again is still first target, although it is getting harder and harder to get up there though. So monitor that. So we want to see evidence of shorts still, like people who had not changed their bias yet, they're getting squeezed. We want to see them squeezed, and we want to see those relative equal highs get taken out. In fact, I'm going to move my take profit up there. Well, actually, hold on. I'll move it up there just to hold out for that, because that's such a nice, 2136.75 is just such a really nice area of liquidity. Let's see, where's our breakaway gap? Institutional order flow entry drill. Oops, hold on. Sorry, Siri picked up some stuff. So I've moved, this was I don't know why there's a volume imbalance on NASDAQ on the 1 minute there, but can treat that as a breakaway gap too. It went barely into that and it's continued higher. So I'm gonna see how does it react when it gets to this SWIC target, and does it have willingness to push up higher into these relative equal highs there. So we'll see. Algo has kind of like held it here for another second stage of accumulation, I feel. Because we take a look at that, let's take a look at that same spot on the 1 minute chart. So this same spot is relative equal highs here. We do have a sell side imbalance that we're currently working within. And if I can kind of play this out here, and we'll move it to 5 o'clock p.m. on today. And this is a sell side imbalance on the 1 minute chart. So we can see that we're trading up into this sell side imbalance on the 1 minute chart. Obviously, the midpoint of this imbalance is an area that we can look to. So let's place, let me go to the 1 minute chart just to make it most accurate. Okay. Let's get the midpoint of this as well. So right around there. Okay. Consequent encroachment. Let's draw that out to 5 o'clock today. And now we've got a midpoint there. Let's see what we've got. So price continues to head higher. We're at the midpoint of this sell side imbalance, so watch this closely. Do we continue to head higher? Do we drop down from here after taking this short-term high? Let's see. So 846. We should see probably at, we'll have to see if 850 to 910 if we get any kind of a macro there or not. So obviously this area of accumulation, we need to see displacement to one side or the other. But so far it's keeping a fairly balanced price range here. And if we look a little closer into that range, right? So I'm gonna mark each of these as a black solid line. It's held here. And then following, we had this down close candle. The high of that candle, perfectly mitigated, right? Here and here. So look, we traded up to almost that wick target. That's the midpoint there. So this would be a good area to take initial profit if you haven't already. But that's a really nice signature there. About 30 seconds remaining in this candle. Okay, so we took out the midpoint of this wick here, and we went to the top of that sell side imbalance on the 1 minute chart, right? So now let's see if we get the rest of our run here. So what does a 15-second look like? So we'll see if we are able to maybe dip below here just a little bit and then head back up higher above that sell side imbalance. We want to treat this sell side imbalance. We want to see it trade above the sell side imbalance and then use that SIBI as a jumping off point to take out these relative equal highs up here. Okay. So that's what we're looking for right now. Can it come against us? Yes. But so let's see how this behaves. I would say stops are probably safe to bump up to around here, just below that down close candle on the 15-second, and just below this down close candle here. That's, you know, pretty rough signature there. As long as we don't close, so we've got candle closes above this midpoint so far. So we need to see, does this have willingness to continue to aim for the sell side liquidity, which is resting right above here, or the buy side liquidity, sorry, buy side liquidity. So can you see why it's a good idea to take initial profits right around there? Definitely worthwhile. Let's see, what does the 15-second chart look like? So it still looks pretty good on the 15-second chart as well. So we went to the top of the SIBI here, created relative equal highs. So now there's relative equal highs up here, which can serve as buy side liquidity. And then we have a fair value gap, which we came to, or buy side imbalance, which we traded up to. We'll have to see how this 15-minute closes. If it can close above this 15-minute wick, great. But those clean highs there are absolutely something that I believe we will target before we end up, ideally before we end up reversing, but just watching this pretty closely to make sure we don't get any sort of big displacements lower. If so, then I can kill the trade. Just watching this kind of seeing if they decide to squeeze these early shorts here. But midway through that wick is reasonable. There's reasonable spot to take profit there. This is too smooth, right? Like, smooth edges tend to want to be disrupted there. So we'll see if we have enough juice to head up there. But I definitely still see this as buy side liquidity. Unless we see displacement lower, I'm going to hold out. 1 minute chart looks like that still. See that down close candle. I'd like to see how that behaves there. Get rid of this one here. That one's fine. This might spend a little time in this area. So there's no guarantee that it's going to go above this 1 minute imbalance here, right? There's no guarantee that it moves and it doesn't take out those relative equal highs, but this liquidity is too even. Like, it's just been sitting there for so long. I don't know why they wouldn't take that out. They maybe could drop it here, and like maybe what they end up doing is they drop it down, come take out this liquidity, and then continue upwards. this liquidity here looks like it's just prime for taking as well. So we want to see big, nice, big, violent rush. We want to see a nice, big, violent rush to take this out and this out is the goal, right? If we don't see that, then we have to consider the trade as failing or potentially failing, because this could be a rejection block here, right here. So we have to keep that in mind as well. This could be a rejection block here. So we're going to watch that closely. All right, so we got a nice movement to take out this here. And so we should see a quick violent rush up above here next. And that would be our trade for the evening. So liquidity taken, one failed trade. And we should see this rush pretty quickly to take out this area of liquidity there. And we'll close out the trades once that profit target hits. So we should see nice big candles to squeeze out any of these longs from having a shot. Okay, so all of our, well, this one did not cancel out apparently. The others did, but this one didn't. Come on, give me one more squeeze. And if it doesn't, I'll just close it manually. $500 is pretty good. They might leave that open for later to attack, but okay, well, let's just manually close that then. Okay, cool. So, so we took about a $100 loss or $200 loss on the first trade because we entered differently. So you can kind of see where we took initial short here. We got stopped out. That's fine. We had a poor entry here, but we saw a breakaway gap here, so we were pretty certain it wasn't going to come out here. And then we also saw relative equal highs. They ended up actually taking the relative equal highs on micro NASDAQ. So if you go over to micro NASDAQ screen, they ended up taking out those relative equal highs. Let me see if I can pull up NASDAQ on trading view from micro NASDAQ real quick. Where is my micro NASDAQ? There it is. Okay. Let me go grab this real quick and mark these relative equal highs so you can see them as well. There we go. Okay, so let me pull this over. So on micro NASDAQ, you can see that micro NASDAQ barely took out. So let me zoom out a little bit real quick. Oops, what just happened there? Okay, cool. So I'm gonna keep that there so you can see. So these same relative equal highs up here, the ones we pointed out earlier on NASDAQ, those same highs got taken out on micro NASDAQ, but on NASDAQ, they weren't taken out, and they probably would have still been taken out on NASDAQ. But if they weren't taken out, though, so we kind of see over here, remember, this high was 20,136.75. We can see that this made it to 20,136. So 3 pips off. So when you're trade copying, you need to be prepared to handle these slight differences in micro NASDAQ and NASDAQ. I've noticed that there oftentimes will be situations where micro NASDAQ takes that area of liquidity, but NASDAQ does not. So there's definitely situations where that happens, right? So you need to be, if you're trade copying and you're trading micro NASDAQ, where you have to have like ES, NASDAQ, Dow up to make sure you're monitoring the few indices to make sure that they're all trading in unison, right? But you also have to in my mind, if you're trading micro NASDAQ, you also have to monitor both NASDAQ and micro NASDAQ because it's just going to help. Now, do I think they're not going to take this? No, I think they're going to take this out and it's going to be a spike upwards, right? But that's all you would need. Like you would take off a partial at the Wix midpoint there, maybe a partial at the SIBI high, and then relative equal highs is going to be the final take profit there. So in this particular trade, let me see if I can pull over these. I'm going to take a snapshot because I was trading my sim was a copied. I'm going to make sure I can block out anything here that's incriminating. Just kidding. I'm just going to block out some of the numbers so you can focus solely on the dollars that we were able to achieve just from using 1 to 6 micros, right? And making sure that we looked for prime trades when we were off sides. So in the beginning, we weren't sure which direction and bias price was taking us. Then we looked and we could see, hey, price is going a certain direction. Let's go in that direction too, right? So you saw me take a loss and you saw me take a win, right? So what does that look like in terms of copy trading and me not needing to end up going to work and try to trade during the day, right? So if we take a look at this, we can see that overall, I was net negative about $20, and then we had a really nice trade that we took out at roughly however many handles that was. Maybe it was probably like 60-ish, 70-ish handles. So there you go. So NASDAQ has taken that short-term high as well. I probably didn't have to close early, but I tried to equalize for my late entry on the sim by giving myself a little bit of leeway there. Hey, Lions Fit, how you doing, brother? Hey, oh, you're in Michigan. What part of Michigan? I'm gonna be in Grand Rapids, probably in October or something like that. Lions Fit, do you think the price is heading to the weekly SIBI consequent encroachment? It's behaving as such. Yes. Well, let's come back to that. So, earlier in the stream on the weekly, so this is the weekly chart, right? Earlier in the stream, I pointed out that there's this weekly sell side imbalance. I do think this is the draw on liquidity. I think that they could either run it up to that quickly and then start to come back down, or they could just keep on running it up and just squeeze everyone out, going all the way up to all-time highs. I do see that as a possibility, but a probability, more probable would be the weekly SIBI low. The weekly SIBI consequent encroachment's also a optimal trade entry, 79% retracement. So those are really important levels. I could definitely see us coming up to there. And there is a fair value gap on the from the weekly high. So there's a fair value gap here, right? So you want to watch out for this. I think you can hit the weekly SIBI high though. I think it's definitely a possibility. Farmington Hills. Oh, Detroit Metro. Okay, cool. Well, I'll have to hit you up if I'm ever in the Detroit area. I haven't been to Farmington Hills before, so we're just gonna review. We're gonna review this trade first, and then I'll pull up the numbers and see how much money we actually made. So okay, so let's bring over micro NASDAQ. Okay, so micro NASDAQ, right? So remember, we had set out the initial. So once the day started, we have our new week opening gap, right? We have here for micro NASDAQ, new week opening gap high, new week opening gap low. We traded lower first. We started up here. We traded lower. We filled in one side of new week opening gap. We didn't take out any low. So originally, I saw this relative equal low form. I was thinking, hey, we might be able to take a short in that area if we take out some of this liquidity up here. But we knew that there's other liquidity up here too. And on the 15-minute chart, you could clearly see back here that only buy side kept on getting taken, right? So we didn't see that. We didn't really register that. We should have. We didn't register that quickly enough. So unfortunately, we were off sides first. So we saw that the new week opening gap balances itself, right? It trades no lower than the consequent encroachment after breaking the new week opening gap, breaking above it, right? We don't trade back down to it, but we do trade up to the initial buy side liquidity. So what happens next? We see initial buy side liquidity occur, and this comes back up. It runs for new day opening gap. This is Friday's new day opening gap, right? So we were still thinking, okay, maybe we can look for a short. And if you look at price right about here, this is all the data we had, right? So we knew it potentially could go for this single short-term high, or we could see it displace lower. So right when we see that, we end up taking this entry here, thinking that we might be able to head lower. Now, the problem is does it go lower? No. We see a little bit lower, but we take out relative equal lows here, and we institutional order flow entry drill. So that was what we were talking through as that trade occurred. So you can roll back, but you see that this took here, these relative equal lows got taken. Institutional order flow entry drill on the 15-minute chart. You can see that as well. So here you see institutional order flow entry drill right there. And we saw that, okay, institutional order flow entry drill typically is a powerful turtle soup. It probably can aim for this high, as well as our 15-minute wick consequent encroachment over here, as well as relative equal highs up here. And that would be enough, right? That would be plenty for a trade. So that's why we took that entry. We took an entry here because we should have waited for this fair value gap, because we did get that price and that would have saved us a couple of points of drawdown. But we didn't have very many points of drawdown here before quickly, swiftly heading up towards those areas of liquidity, right? So, and I marked that a little bit better on NASDAQ here. So we're going to pull back up on the NASDAQ chart. And so you can kind of see how this 15-minute consequent encroachment, we have that wick here. Where's my, oh, there it is. So 15-minute consequent encroachment. And then this was equal highs, buy side liquidity. So we knew that the draw was likely to come up here and take that out. We closed our sim position a little bit less. We should have just let it stop out at that high. And this is exactly about as high as I would expect it to go without potentially aiming for additional liquidity above us, right? So is it possible that we head higher? Yes. There are sell side imbalances above us, and we certainly could continue higher. But I would expect us to maybe consolidate a little bit and then maybe continue higher. But let's take a look at what we did here, so this is what you can do as well. So keep in mind, for first 5 of these accounts, I trade 1 micro. I'm getting out of drawdown for these accounts, okay? So for the 300Ks, which are the 250K and 300Ks are the larger accounts, right? So I can afford to risk roughly about 2%, 6 micros on that account to enter a trade. So what does that end up giving us? So let's disregard SIM, because those SIM values we don't really care about. We saw that on NASDAQ. That's fine. No big deal. So let's add these up to see what our haul is for today. So 24, 241.36, 240.36 plus 237.86 plus 4506, 4506, 4506, 4506 plus 4506. Okay, so not a bad haul for Asia session trade. We outlined exactly what we saw happening. We saw and that's plenty. You know, I'm glad I could get the trading out of the day before the New York session starts, right? I don't have to worry about it during my workday anymore. So that's something that I am thankful for ICT for teaching me how to think about. And it's not just the 2024 content. I'm using 2016 content here. I'm using balanced price range here. I'm using market maker buy model considerations here. So I'm using liquidity price trading towards a imbalance to rebalance it, and close by liquidity to take liquidity, right? Lions came through this week for my fantasy football. Oh, I didn't even check my team yet. I gotta see. Let me see what happened. I forgot to check. I am not doing too hot. Patrick Mahomes still has a lot to go, but yeah, Detroit. I had Jamar Gibbs really put up some nice points there on my. He's my only Lions guy I got for Detroit. But yeah, they did really well. So yeah, so we see that, you know, all of these things from the 15-minute I've transposed onto the 1-minute chart, and of course we've applied them and seen price tackle exactly our run on liquidity. So you need to be nimble when you do see balanced price ranges. So this new week opening gap, if I go to maybe like a 5-minute chart, you can kind of see how on the 5-minute chart, you can see more cleaner bodies being rebalanced here. And we failed to get below the midpoint. We can see the bodies, they're not closing below the midpoint of that new week opening gap. So I can take that, and I can take this fair value gap, institutional order flow entry drill. We keep on hitting that balanced price range. We break upwards, breakaway gap, first fair value gap. We see institutional order flow entry drill. We could have targeted from this, where's my measuring tool? I think it's ruler. So from this entry point, oops, F3. Let's try that again. So you could have entered at this fair value, this buy side imbalance high. If you targeted, oops, what the heck? Okay, that's weird. Oh, control F3. Okay, let's try that again. So this fair value gap here, you could have entered and set a limit order to enter right there. If you had only taken this amount of profit, that would have been 27 handles of profit, right? Now, we didn't do that. We didn't see that at the time, but we should have. It was all in our price, in the price structure here. It was all there. So we just didn't come on in time. So let's say that you held to the midpoint of the consequent, even to the midpoint of the SIBI, right? That would have been 54 handles. So you held to the midpoint of the wick, 65 handles. And then let's say you went to relative equal highs. That's 80 handles of profit, right? So there's a lot of room sometimes in Asia for you to get some really nice trades before the day starts, right? So, yeah, I think that 1400 haul is pretty solid. I'm happy with that. My accounts are happy with that. And we're just slowly building, base hits until we get to the next payout, right? So I think one of my 300Ks is about 1,600, 700 away from payout. Another one's about 3.5 grand. The other ones are maybe 6.3 grand away because I just opened them up. They basically have like 1,000 in profit. And the accounts, the first 5 accounts which were in drawdown, those are maybe anywhere from $650 to $900 in drawdown. So not as bad as they were. Definitely still in drawdown, but not nearly as bad as they were. So some of the last remaining 50K that I have has about 1,000 left in drawdown, I think. Let me check. Yeah, so my 50K has about 120 left in drawdown to get back to even. And then the 150Ks have about well, those are the ones that are closest to being blown. So those are at about 600 from drawdown being blown, $600 from being blown, and then $800 from being blown. The 250K that I have is 2,100 away from being blown. So plenty of room. With those accounts, I had gotten on tilt because I had gotten trade copier issues. Now I know that I need to go in and check positions when I'm done so that there's no ghost positions available. And I got ghost positions today as well. So it wasn't fun, but it is what it is, right? Like, it's a known issue. It's a known issue with Rhythmic. And the Apex trade copier tool said that it's nothing to do with their trade copier. It's more so to do with Rhythmic. There are issues with Rhythmic across Apex, across, I think FTT has those as well. I forget if Topstep has those or not, but I think Topstep doesn't really, I think they do integrate with TradingView, but, I don't know to what extent. But yeah. Let me text the lady real quick. I need to let her know when I'm going to be done. Done with a trade. Should be off in 15 minutes max. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to end up calling it a day for the time being, but I want to make sure if there's any questions on the trades that I took. There's 2 trades. You see them here, right? Let me get over. So you see from the open here, new week opening gap, you see the 2 trades I took, the failed trade here, successful trade here. What questions do you all have? Lions Fit, I think this is Judah's swing. Maybe the red folder will create a bigger weekly tail, then head higher for the week. I'm bullish, but I need a fake bearish candle first. Yeah, I mean, look at that rejection from that high, though, I would say let this consolidate. Let this consolidate here. See if there's a willingness for you to start to break down, but see like a massive breakdown. Because then you can use all the targets that were down close candles and up close candles. You can use those accumulation points as areas to distribute. But you have to see distribution. You have to see like displacement, and you're not really seeing that much. So you have to be careful because this inversion fair value gap, this 1 minute, 1 minute, well, I guess this isn't a 1 minute gap. I think it's a 15-minute gap. Yeah. Oh, why is this? Oh, this is the 1 minute gap. Okay. Yeah. So this 1 minute fair value gap could turn, since it's a premium, it's a sell side imbalance and a premium. You have to be careful because this could turn into an inversion fair value gap running this higher as well. You have to remember, Lions Fit, that remember last week we got a huge announcement from the Fed saying that they're going to drop 50 basis points, 50 percentage, like 0.50 basis points from the federal rates, right? So our federal rate, interest rates dropped. Let me see if I can find it here. So the federal interest rates dropped. Where's my little thing here? Okay, so the Federal Reserve dropped its interest rates from 5.50 to 5.00. That means banks have cheaper money that they can end up using. Speaking of inversion fair value gap, look at that. Look at that immediate rebalance from there. So it's probably going to trade higher. On the 15-minute chart, you have these. Let me see if there's anything on the 4-hour chart. So 4-hour chart, your next target is up here. Rejection block, right? We'll mark this as a 4-hour rejection block. Okay. And then on the 15-minute, there's obviously some fair value gaps here that we are potentially going to rebalance, right? Where's my screen here? Lions Fit. There's a huge weekly BISI from last week. Let's take a look at that. It isn't fully formed yet, though, right? So it's an implied buy-side imbalance. Yes, I agree. But it's not fully formed yet, so I consider this to be a dynamic buy-side imbalance. And you have to remember, with these imbalances that are dynamic, price could trade down from here to here as well. Or from here all the way down to here to rebalance it completely, maybe to this bullish order block or to this volume imbalance, right? On the weekly chart. There's a volume imbalance down here too, and that's roughly at the 50% mark. So I do think if we're going to head higher, we could definitely trade lower. But you have to remember, like sometimes during these weeks, like you can kind of take, let's take last week as an example. So if we take last week, you can kind of see last week's new week opening gap, we traded lower and we traded higher. But then the week before that, we opened the week, we traded halfway through this new week opening gap, and then we just kept on skyrocketing up, right? I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I think from a daily perspective, though, you can kind of see how price has already come back down to an old new week opening gap high and immediately traded higher, right? So these days, I imagine it can come down into that weekly imbalance. Yes, it is a dynamic imbalance. So you need to weigh whether or not there's more draw on liquidity higher or lower, right? In my mind, and this is a weekly chart, in my mind, this previous week's high is a better draw on liquidity than the previous week or the current week's low. Although there definitely is relative equal lows there, so I don't want to discount that by any means. But yes, you're right. If we could go down and take the relative equal lows from earlier, that would have been cleaner. That's why I looked for a short when we traded below a short-term low. But that short didn't work out. We closed the trade early, and we re-entered long a little bit late. So that was a scalp. So basically what I have now is a weekly chart which has started traded lower, is expanding higher, and I have a feeling that we might reach for these kind of areas of liquidity. Maybe during London and Asia we pull back, but I mean, this could just, I mean, what happens if it just keeps on going, you know? We'll see. It's kind of tough to see. So, Coyotes, what chart are you looking at? So I'm looking at a NASDAQ chart here. So you can kind of see up in the top left corner, NQ 1224 is NQZ on TradingView. So if you're looking at TradingView, you can kind of see NQZ 2024. That's the same December contract for NASDAQ. Okay. Just using NinjaTrader and Apex Trader Funding, I trade NASDAQ, and NASDAQ is the it's my instrument of choice. And I love how it moves. It moves quick, although ES sometimes has far better and cleaner price action. So you may want to also consider ES if you're just learning. NASDAQ does move quite quickly, so you have to be careful with that, right? But let's take a look at ES, by the way. So ES on a 15-minute chart, you can see where we open the day here. So you have your new week opening gap created here. I'm just going to keep that here for now. Then you also have the new week opening gap open here. I'm going to go down to 1 minute so I can get a cleaner gap. So we have new week opening gap opening here, 1700. New week opening gap low here. So we see the same deal on ES happened. We traded lower, balanced the new week opening gap, rebalanced it, never went through halfway. We saw a breakaway gap. Well, we didn't see as big of a breakaway gap here, but we did see a second fair value gap, which we traded down into institutional order flow entry drill. And from there, if you entered on institutional order flow entry drill and you took profit, let's say, let me go find ES's targets. So ES's targets were up here. ES has not hit its targets yet, by the way. Oh, that's a higher target. Let me mark that, though. So ES's targets were right there. These were the same relative equal highs that NASDAQ had, right? So this is ES here, relative equal highs. They actually had more relative equal highs, so this was a safer, definitely a safer play for ES. And so if you can kind of see, if you took that, that would be about 10 handles on ES. So pretty solid play there. So is it cleaner than NASDAQ? I don't know, but you know, it is a play that you could possibly use as well. So, but yeah, so we reviewed the trade. We see that it's consolidating here, right? It bounced off of this inversion fair value gap. So we need to see if there's further movement higher, right? We came back down into this buy side imbalance. We did not come to the halfway point. We're at the relative equal highs. We're creating accumulation, further accumulation here. So this is, I mean, this is kind of textbook here, right? This is a 5-minute chart. You have imbalances up here that price may want to go up to rebalance those imbalances. So I think there's definitely room higher on NASDAQ. And Coyotes, thank you, bro. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Any questions? I have to get off in a couple minutes, but any questions for me while we wait? Any questions on the trade we took? Any questions on the logic behind why we took the trade? Let me see if there's even anyone else on. Come on. Come on, man. Okay, we have 4 people watching, so that's not too bad. Yeah, so now, from a weekly perspective, we still do expect a weekly expansion higher. And once it hits these points, this is enough. If you get greedy, you could go for the midpoint here. But remember, this week, it's going to be very important for you to watch out for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, right? Monday, we've got 9:45 a.m. work. So you're going to see a setup that's probably going to form around that 10 a.m. silver bullet. Same with Tuesday. You've got CB consumer confidence at 10 o'clock in the morning. So 10 a.m. silver bullet, probably reasonable. New home sales on Wednesday. Again, another silver bullet is going to likely form there. Thursday, you got unemployment claims at 8:30. So you could possibly consider that. Lots of stuff on Thursday. Be careful on Thursday. Thursday is going to be a not fun day to trade. Okay? Just if you're not done trading by the morning, just be really, really careful during that morning time. Friday, things will cool off. You'll probably get a TGIF trade. Probably high of the week will form somewhere in that morning, potentially at 2 o'clock. Lions Fit, great job. Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate you, Lions Fit. K outs. You trade on TradingView. I don't trade futures, but why want to get later? You want to get it later on? Yes, I do. I use something called AMP futures. So you could just Google AMP futures because I use TradingView, and it's this one here. So AMP futures. It's you probably need to like you can look up information about what are their margins. So if you're gonna trade micros, like I only trade micros on my cash account, but one micro NASDAQ account would cost you need $100 minimum to even buy one contract. So if you're going to trade one contract of NASDAQ, I would recommend you have 10 times that in your account. So about $1,000 to trade one micro is my recommendation. You can trade with more, but just be careful. Watch out for the margins because you will have increases by 25% during days where there's big news. Okay, so that's what I use to trade on TradingView. I like it a lot. The fills are great, and I've had no problems with it so far. So, for Coyotes, if you are wishing to trade, I don't know what systems you use, Coyotes, but I hope you found a system to trade. The person that I learned from was a guy called Michael Huddleston. A lot of people talk shit about him, but dude knows his stuff. Like, this is where I learned everything that I know. And he has a video that I think goes through where to start, but I forget where it's at. But I don't know if it's pinned or not. 2022 mentorship's pretty good. The problem is you have to relearn everything. So be ready to spend hours upon hours upon hours if you want to learn this system, this person's system. But I like the way he thinks about market structure. I think it's really valuable to check out. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you come to the channel here, if you have any questions about futures at all, I'm more than happy to explain. I came from an options background, so I came from losing a lot of money in options. I'll be frankly honest here. It was not the best time for me. When I first started getting into options, I had a really good Tesla trade, and that was the worst possible thing that could have happened because that made me think I actually knew how to trade. Long story short, I ended up losing a lot of money on options and quit options for some time, for a second, just to regroup and think like what happened, right? So that's when I started searching for systems, and joined a couple of discords here and there. Started tracking my own inputs. Tried a bunch of different systems, and none of them really worked. None of them really could tell me why price books how it books. But then I found Inner Circle Trader through my buddy Abraham. Actually, I owe Abraham a response back, but yeah, I mean, futures is so much easier than options. It is so much easier. It's just clear cut price to price. Either your trade works or it doesn't, right? And that's why you use stop losses. So once I made the switch, I never looked back. I mean, I trade options still, but I use the stuff that I learned from Inner Circle Trader. I use that when I apply it to options, and I maybe trade 0 DTEs and scalp, KOs, I literally the same. Options made my account negative, had a couple wins, but horrible losses. Yeah. If you're open to it, it's taken me a long time to get where I am now, where I'm consistently trading. Like 2 years is what it took me, because I wasn't really focused. I started trading real money sooner than I should have. I should have just stayed on demo, stayed on paper trading for 6 months straight. That would have helped me get to where I would be like 10 times faster. Okay. So check out Inner Circle Trader if you want to. I don't know what your strategy is, Coyotes. Figure out something that works for you. You don't have to do ICT stuff like I do, but I will be talking about reading price, and I'll continue to try to go live. Usually it's weekly preps right now, just because there's like work is so demanding that I don't have the energy to go live during the week, let alone take some trades during the week. So I'll probably come live on Sundays, and then I will ping the chat on my community page. I'll definitely ping my chat to see if there's ways for me to hop on earlier. I will use this community tab to mention. I'll mention that we've got room. I'll mention when I might be able to come on. I'll try to make that mention the day before, or maybe the evening of. Sometimes I can hop on at like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. It's really tough though sometimes, because I'm at work 3 days of the week, and I'm actually not going to be here on Friday or Thursday trading. So it's going to be a short week for me. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions though. I'm happy to talk. Coyotes, I appreciate all the info. I subscribed. Hopefully I can tune in on one of your live streams again. Yep, for sure. Almost every single Sunday, I try to focus on Asia session being like 6 o'clock when the market opens. So right here where the market opens to about 9 o'clock is a sweet spot. You can kind of see how price booked and took out liquidity right around 9 o'clock, right? It's kind of crazy. So 9 o'clock is when it's close to when it took it out. But yeah, appreciate your subscription, Coyotes. Always glad to have you here. While I am on socials, I'm probably on Twitter the most. So if you just tweet something and at me, I'll be able to respond fast. I usually check that as my like economics, just to scroll. And yeah, I think that is going to be it for today, though. So thank you very much for everyone who's here. I don't even know if we still have people here, but we got 4 people watching today. So thank you very much. I'm so grateful to have you here and be able to trade with you. I hope this was helpful, walking through price, walking through, what I was looking at, what kind of liquidity draws I was looking at, price action, watching candles continue to book, and be okay with price being confident that price will book as expected. I'm being called. So Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night. See you soon. Have a safe week. Trade safe. Be careful and stay hydrated. Okay? See ya.